Students, today we will talk about skeletal system or our own skeleton. We do not see skeleton every day. That's the reason sometimes it is very scary to look at a skeleton. But we all know that is very much a part of us. Skeleton, or in scientific terms, skeletal system. If I go a little beyond that, it is a musculoskeletal system actually. Muscles and skeleton, they work together to provide support to your entire body, body posture, all actions. Now I am making some actions. All actions are done using your skeletal and muscular system together. So that is musculoskeletal system. We will talk, of course, more specifically about skeleton. That's a part of this system. As an adult, we have 206 bones, 206 bones. When child is born, the number is quite larger than this, around 300 bones a young newborn baby has. Gradually some bones fuse, and by the time child grows into adult individual, the number comes to 206. Now in this total number, the bones are attached to each other, the joint to each other, by way of some joints. Now two bones, when are close to each other, there is something which holds them together. They are called as ligaments. They are thread or ligamentous structure which hold the bones together. So that holds. Muscles also are connected to bones with tendons. They are again thread-like structures or rope-like structures. Muscles come in pair from two sides of bone. So bone on its own does not move. When muscles they pull, bone also moves. Muscles cannot push, they can just pull. So there has to be muscles in pair. So there have to be two muscles at a time. One pulls, bone moves on one side and same on the other side. So these are connected by tendons. And when two muscles they are rubbed against each other, there will be a lot of wear and tear. So to protect such wear and tear, there are cartilages or some soft padding between two joints or two bones which are joined together. So that is the basic structure. Now if I look at skeleton once again, the main part of skeleton, that is axial, in the axis of your main body, that is called as axial skeleton, and your four limbs, two hands and two legs, that is called as appendicular skeleton. This axial skeleton has 80 bones. So out of 206, if 80 are gone, then you will find it has the 126, they come in appendicular skeleton part. That means it has more appendicular bones than skeletal bones, than your main axial skeleton. As I was telling you, these bones are joined together using multiple types of joints. All bones or all joints don't need to move. For example, there is a locking joint between bones in your skull. So there is a part of the axial skeleton. The skull bones are joined together by sutures, or they are called as immovable bones. Some in immovable joints. Then when it comes to slightly movable, some joints need not have flexible movements. These joints, particularly joints in your spine, particularly or vertebral column, they are these partially movable joints. And some joints have to be very freely moving for all our actions. They are called as freely movable or synovial joints. Now we'll talk, of course, more of the synovial joints or movable joints. Coming to the types of joints, you also can observe your own body and bones carefully. You will find that some movements are more dynamic than movements of other joints. For example, I can move my shoulder or hand with different possibilities. I can move it up and right. I can move it in a circular fashion like this. So there is a possibility of 360-degree movement to your shoulder joint. Or same is true even with your hip joint. Your legs also would be moving in the same way like your shoulder is or your hand is. This kind of joint is called as ball and socket joint. Ball, it's a spherical body. So this bone has a ball shape on top of it. This ball shape fits into a socket of this bone, that is your collarbone, and it fits inside, and it gives you a flexible possibility of moving it all around. So same is true even for your girder joint, or this particular joint of thigh bone or your femur with your hip joint. So that is your basically ball and socket type. Hinge, we know door has a hinge or a laptop has a hinge. Usually hinges open to an extent and close again. So that hinge action exists in some of our joints. In particular, two types of joints we have hinge action. Here elbow has that kind of action, and your knee also has that kind of action, that hinge action, opening and closing action. Then we have pivotal joint. This can be in your neck. You can see that your neck has that kind of pivotal joint. You can rotate in a limited movement possibilities. So that is a pivotal joint. Then we have gliding joint. Now this part has that gliding joint. So this is a gliding joint. So you can easily understand that there is a joint called as gliding joint here. Then we have saddle joint. That is a unique joint which comes only for your base of your thumb. This is a special joint which has a possibility of all such movements. That is your saddle type of movements. This is saddle joint. One more very dynamic joint is ellipsoidal joint or basal joint, that is here. We know this. These eight bones are connected to this radius. This is called radius with a special joint that is called an ellipsoidal joint. These multiple types of joints, they make up our body and gives us a possibility of a variety of movements. Fingers, you will find that all bones have like these carpals, metacarpals, then phalanges and so on. All the bones are connected to each other. There are phalanges, that is your finger bones. There are 3, 3, 3, 3 and 2, 14. Then here we have those metacarpals. Then here we have 8 bones, carpals. Then we have 2 bones here. They are called as radius and ulna. Then this is your humerus. So all bones have their own names. Slowly you can start understanding these names once you start reading through the books. In this axial part, the important is of course on the back side you'll find you have that your complete vertebral column. It has these vertebrae connected to each other with limited movement. So these are in your neck part, in your thoracic part, in your lumbar part. They are 24 and there are 2 more, so making it 26. There are vertebra or vertebral column at your back. From middle 12, some of you are aware that there are ribs coming to the front. There are 12 such ribs, and first 7 ribs, they come right making the circle. They connect to the central bone of your body or your chest, that is called as sternum. So these 7 come directly and get connected to the sternum. Then there are 3 more. These upper 7 are called as the real ribs. Then we have 3 ribs which come here, then using some ligaments they get connected to your upper or the 7th rib and then comes to the same sternum. So these 3 are false ribs. And 7 plus 3, 10. There are 2 ribs which just start from the back, come up to a certain limit and then they disappear. That means there is no connectivity further. So these are called as floating ribs. So this makes your rib cage which protects your heart, lungs and part of your even digestive organs. And then you know that all these axial bones here we have connected it with appendicular bones make a complete skeletal system of your body. Now henceforth you will never get scared if you look at a skeleton suddenly, because you know skeleton is very much a part of you. And now of course it's the time to do some activity. We'll do 2 activities. One, making a good skeleton using small paper bones, connecting them together, forming a this high or this big skeleton using paper. And then once that skeleton is done, we can hang it in your, definitely on your study table you can hang it so that you will never be scared of skeleton then. We'll also do one more activity, forming a ball and socket joint that exists here. It's a ball and socket joint that exists in your shoulder. So these two activities we'll do. Let us get ready for activities right away. In the first activity, we'll make a paper model of skeleton. The pieces which we'll be using to make a skeleton are in front of you. This middle portion is of axial skeleton. This starts from skull, then we have this rib cage and this vertebral column and this pelvic girdle. So this forms your main axial skeleton. This skull will be fixed here. That's the only joint for this. And we have these positions where your limbs will come. Now look at this. Here you will find it has right and left written on them or printed on them. It's right humerus, it's left humerus. This right radius and ulna, left radius and ulna. Same for actual your hand, right and left. This part is the upper part or that ball part which fits here, and that makes a ball and socket joint. Similarly, this part and this part, they are fixed here. Here is the elbow joint actually, and same is true even for your hands. Now coming to the lower limbs or your legs, this right femur and left femur, they are your thigh bones. They are the longest bones of your body. They should be fixed here at these 2 points. Again with same these two ball structures coming here, making it ball and socket joint again. This is your kneecap or patella that is to be fixed here. So this is a kneecap, that is one typical bone which is not joining any other bone. So that is just connected using ligaments. Now these two, your lower limbs, are connected to your right and left foot. So you should mind left and right here as well. Now how to connect them? Basically we'll have to connect them together. We have given you these pair of rivets. One as a long pin type of structure and one small cap type of structure. You will find cap is quite shiny. They will lock into each other. Once they are locked, they won't come off. So this shiny part should be kept from the top of the skeleton and will complete joints one by one. I'll just show you one to begin with. Say take an example of this. I am pressing this pin from lower side of this skeleton. This pin comes up. Then I am placing this skull here. There are holes made, so you don't have to really make a hole. Holes are already made. Now pin has come up. I will place any one cap from top of it. So one joint is made. This way you will join this here, then same two here and here, and your hands again here and here. So let us complete these all joints. Okay. Now we have joined this skeleton completely. Some precautions you must take while joining the bones. Here are these two regions which are like a ball and socket structures. They must come here. Again, mind this right and left. Same is true even here. These are the ball structures which go into this pelvic girdle joint. So that is again a ball and socket joint here. This knee structure, or even you will find this radius and ulna. Look at the positioning always very carefully, so you can create anatomically quite okay and precise skeleton. All these joints are made using those two rivet parts, and once this is done, I'll now lift it and show how exactly this skeleton looks like. So your friend, your skeleton is ready. Now you can definitely hang it in front of you always, and maybe perhaps in the door as well, so to scare somebody like this. So you know now there is nothing to be scared about, because you have learned what is skeleton. Once we have done it, we'll go for one ball and socket joint using some wooden battens and some other material. Second activity of today's session. After understanding the skeleton, the next is to understand our joints. We know each joint is unique, and each joint has its own importance. We'll be making a model of hand joints. It will show you mainly this joint, that is a ball and socket joint, and of course a little bit of this joint as well, that is a hinge joint. But that way you can visualize importance of other joints as well. Take an example. This joint that is at the base of your thumb, what is called a saddle joint, is so important that if you imagine that this joint say was not there, then perhaps you would not have been able to make a grip of your hand like this. So for lifting of tools, lifting of anything, this thumb joint is very important. That way you can say that the total progress that humans have done in technology and science and everything, in arts and whatnot, the total progress depended on this grip. If, like other animals, if humans were also not able to make a grip of something, they would not have really made a progress. So important is this joint as well. Coming back to this kit now, we'll be making a joint using a material which we are given in the kit. This has a variety of small things, like some wooden battens, then these foam pieces, some prints, some hardware part of it, and so on. Let us start with the activity, and step by step observe it carefully and do it, because this has small but typical and critical steps. You should not just miss anything of them. Let's get going now. As the first step, we'll make a T structure using these two battens. The small batten has one hole on its one side. Keep this hole on your right hand and place these two battens like this, and pass a screw through this. Now using a screwdriver, you have to fix this. Make it completely tight, so this T structure should remain firm in place. It should not be loose like this. Tighten it completely. Once again, I am reminding you that its hole is on right side. When I hold it in front of me, it's on right side. Okay, this is step number 1. Then let us go to step number 2. I have this red colored small container with me, and I'll take one more screw. We will fix this red container, or this is going to be your socket in the final assembly. You'll be fixing it here in this hole using again same screw, similar identical screw, and I'm passing this through this container first and then trying to put it here. That won't go, so I'll have to use screwdriver again. So now we have placed this container on the side of this batten. This is tightly fixed. We have also taken material for next step. This long bolt had these 3 nuts. I have just taken them out. We also have this batten having 2 adhesive tapes. We'll pass this bolt from my right hand side. I am passing it into this, keeping the adhesive tapes on top. Then place 1 nut into this bolt. You don't need screwdriver for this. You just can completely bring it down and fix it like this. So it is done. Then I'll just place this cap like this. This is nothing but cap of this container actually. We will pass 1 more nut and keep it at some distance from earlier nut. Take a look. This distance can be adjusted, or you may need to adjust it depending on the requirement. We'll come to that later, but first let us push it inside. So somewhere here I am placing it. Okay, some gap between the two. Now I am taking a ball which has hole like this. I'll pass this bolt into this. This will go quite tight into this. Okay, so far we have achieved this. Now we are taking one more batten. You will find this is smaller than the previous one. It also has 2 double-sided adhesive tapes. We have to join them together like this. So this will form your hinge joint of elbow. To do that, we have one plastic strip and 2 bolts. They also had nuts locked in them. I have just taken the nuts out. So we are passing this one bolt through one hole of it and other bolt through other hole of it. Then I'll also pass this through one hole of longer batten and one hole of smaller batten. So this has come like this. On the other side, the 2 ends of these bolts have come out. I had to fix this rubber sheet in these 2 bolts. Usually there is a hole made to these rubber sheets, but if the hole is not very proper, you can redo this hole using scissors or needle or something. I am passing the other hole through this bolt. So I have passed these 2 bolts through holes made to this rubber sheet. We can then lock a nut from this side. There may be very less margin to lock it, but you have to manage that and just lock it. A little support would be enough actually. It may not be fully tight. I have fixed these 2 nuts to these 2 bolts. This is the rear side of the assembly, so I'll turn it over. So you will find this now can easily bend like this and come back with some rubber action. Let us now go for next step. We have already created this. The container is also fixed. From this small bag, I am transferring all thermocol balls into this. So all balls taken into this container. We have to lock this container by placing this ball inside like this. So now ball is fixed inside and I have tightly locked this cover of it. Your basic assembly is now ready. We have these 3 foam pieces having adhesive tape from both the sides. The one is little thicker So remove its release paper of one adhesive tape and fix it in this long batten at lower end like this. Then take two identical adhesive these pieces, remove the release paper from this adhesive tape and place it here on one side. Again remove release paper from this adhesive tape, place it here. So this is your basic structure. Now in the kit we have these two printed sheets. One is definitely a rib cage, one can easily make out. So we know that this is the top of the rib cage, and as you go down, rib cage is like this. I had to place it here, and there is one arm, so I had to cut this arm using a scissors and along the line. So this black portion has to be removed. Same way here also we have this black portion, we can just cut it off. So I'll do that using scissors, and then we'll go for last step of this assembly. So we have cut this hand and rib cage carefully, that black portion is removed. We'll now fold it at the point where there is joint of humerus and radius ulna, that is your elbow joint. So just there is an indication, okay, here is the joint. We have to place this on top of these two battens. We'll have to first remove a release paper from all three adhesive tapes. So using or four adhesive tapes, not three. I've done that. Now bring this joint exactly on the joint of these two battens, so it will be more realistic, and place it so that you can hide the batten as much as you can. So I have placed it this way. Now this rib cage, let us remove adhesive tapes from, or release paper of the adhesive tapes from these three double side tapes. And you have to place this rib cage in such a way that it will be as close as possible to your hand that is already placed there. Now the structure is ready. You can find that I can hold it like this. There is a hand which can rotate in all planes, almost 360 degrees it can rotate, or it can also come up like this. And at elbow it can just be folded this way, and it can be straightened. So it's a hinge joint. So concept of hinge joint and concept of ball and socket joint can be completely understood using this simple model. From backside it looks a wooden structure, and as you look from the front, this looks to be rib cage and left hand of the model.